One of the deals that wasn't done, that had been lurking and gurgling and percolating since late last year when it became clear Deshaun Watson wanted out of Houston, the Texans sending him somewhere, and that somewhere, as of last week, clearly became the Miami Dolphins. Now that the dust is settling, I can tell you a little bit more about what really went on, because as of last week, early in the week, it was the Texans trading him to the Dolphins or the Panthers. And here's how the Panthers were alive. Here's why they were alive. The Dolphins wanted Deshaun Watson to settle the 22 civil lawsuits as part of a trade. They weren't going to take him without a settlement of the 22 civil lawsuits. It doesn't resolve the 10 criminal complaints, and no one at this point can resolve the 10 criminal complaints, but you can take half of the legal issues off the table completely with a settlement of the 22 civil lawsuits. The Dolphins wanted that. The Panthers didn't care. Not that they don't care, but they weren't troubled by it.
Right.
They didn't make it a term. They didn't say, thou shalt settle your civil cases before we'll trade for you. They were willing to take on the uncertainty that came from both the criminal and the civil side of things. That was the opening for the Panthers. But Deshaun Watson ultimately decided, I still want the Dolphins, so I'll try to get my cases settled. And as I said the other day, once the Texans caught wind of the effort to get the cases settled, they drove up the price. That caused everything to collapse, and then they were never able to land the plane. And I said all week that maybe these teams are too dysfunctional to land the plane.
Yeah.
Ian Rappaport of NFL Media reported yesterday that the Texans first gave the Dolphins permission to speak to Watson on Monday night.
Right.
How in the F do you expect a deal this complicated to get resolved in less than 24 hours if you're first giving permission to speak to the guy on the eve of the deadline, when it's not just Texans-Dolphins have to do a deal, it's Watson's got to get his cases settled too. That was the death knell there. If I'd have known that it wasn't until Monday night that they first had a chance to talk to this guy, there's no way they're getting this deal done.
No, I think you're right. I mean, again, it just seems like the Texans are dug in. Obviously, something changed, Mike. You're exactly right. I mean, you've kind of been all over that. I can't blame them. I can't sit here and blame the Houston Texans and Nick Caserio and sit there and go, man, you really blew an opportunity. Again, first off, we don't know really what Miami was offering up. We don't know like substantial. I'm sure it was, multiple first-round picks. I mean, at least 2, I would think. But still, I would imagine Nick Caserio is still looking at this going, wait, Deshaun Watson's one of the best players in football. I'm not going to just trade him away, like you've said so many times, for, nothing, or just for 2 picks because, there's this dark cloud hovering him right now. No, I mean, again, I think this is a monumental moment for Nick Caserio as a GM and his future there, to where he realizes that this is going to be like attached to him forever. So he's going to make sure he comes out looking good in this trade in his first time as a full-time GM down there with the Houston Texans.
Right.
I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. And, Mike, I think your point all along
It can
about—
still blow up on him, though.
It can still blow up.
on him.
It's risky. It's risky. And that's why I would love, and I'm sure we'll hear in the next 10 days, exactly what was being offered to the Houston Texans. And then you and I can sit there and evaluate that risk. But, yes, he's taking great risk. But obviously he didn't feel like the trade offer was anywhere near what he's really worth if there were no cases or things were a little bit simpler in Deshaun Watson's life.
The other risk he's taking is that his boss, owner Cal McNair, is not going to be thrilled with the outcome, because Shefty reported the other day that McNair wants the trade to be done.
Yeah.
And again, they will say that the owners don't dictate the football decisions until it's in the owner's interest to make it look like he's the one who took a stand. And that's what we saw yesterday from the Dolphins via the tweet from Shefty. Of course, they handed this to Shefty about 2 in the afternoon. Stephen Ross, who had contingencies that needed to be met for any deal, made the final decision to not move forward. I thought Stephen Ross didn't make football decisions. I thought he didn't tell his football people what they could and couldn't do. But in a situation like this, where he can thump his chest and say, I took a stand on principle, I had contingencies that weren't going to be that weren't going to be compromised. Now he can say, I made the final decision, which is the truth. And it's always the truth. So let's remember that moment the next time an owner tries to say, Chris, I don't make the decisions.
Right. Well,
and that's the risk Casario's taken because he missed the signals from Cal. Cal wanted to move on from Deshaun Watson, and Nick didn't do it. Nick better hope it works out in the long run.
No, you're right. Nick better. He is taking that risk. Now, Nick, again, a guy I've been around, smart, thorough, detailed, I would think he'll lay this out in a way to where, hopefully he can appease Cal McNair and make him understand that it wasn't worth it at this time. And, I think that all but confirms what we always have kind of known about Stephen Ross, that he is involved in these type of things. He's involved more than he should be. That's always been the rumor around the NFL, period. Kind of sticks his nose into every conversation, that goes on there in that organization. And talks to too many people to add that to the list of things too. I understand him though, getting involved in this one particularly. I mean, I do. This is a little bit more than your, garden variety trade here. We're talking about, a franchise quarterback, and we are in 2021, and he's got a lot of issues around him. I mean, so that it's not one here where I would just go, I wouldn't expect any owner just to go, hey, you guys figure it out. You're the football people. This goes beyond football a little bit with Deshaun Watson. This does cross over into your fan base, and it is going to alienate some people and turn them off to your football team. So from all those aspects, I do understand Stephen Ross getting involved in this one. I'm not going to be too mad at him.
When March rolls around and the window opens again on trades, and we know how this goes, just because the trades can't become official until March 16 at 4 p.m. Eastern, the trades can be worked out in advance. In theory, not that it will ever happen, in theory, the Texans and the Dolphins could work out a deal today that will be effective on March 16. That's not going to happen. But we saw the Alex Smith trade from Kansas City to Washington happen before the Super Bowl was even played back in 2018. And that was what opened the door for Kirk Cousins to leave, and he later joined the Vikings. So that is the kind of thing that can transpire. And it could be the Dolphins, it could be other teams. The risk that the Dolphins were taking by not getting the deal done now is that other teams will be at the table and offer more in the offseason. And there will be more clarity from the legal perspective, especially on the criminal side. I think at some point in the next month, based on everything I've been hearing for the past 2 or 3 months, the grand jury in Houston will get a chance to decide whether or not to indict Deshaun Watson on potential felony charges of sexual misconduct. That is what would get him on the commissioner exempt list and cause everyone to back off completely and totally from Deshaun Watson until the criminal cases were resolved. The civil cases are still there, and Tony Busby, the lawyer who represents the 22 plaintiffs, was spouting off about some things last night, some things that didn't make much sense because he's the one that wanted confidentiality for his clients, and now he knows that Watson wants it. He acts like he doesn't, because there's value in that. And this is basic negotiation, especially in litigation. If there's something that you think the other side wants, even if you also want it, if you sense they want it, there's value in that. There's value in telling them no, even if you've already said that you want that very thing. So, the dysfunction between the Texans and the Dolphins, we also have to consider the potential dysfunction between Tony Busby and Rusty Hardin and their inability to get deals done. But by March, we'll know more. We won't know less, but we'll know at least more. If nothing else, we'll know the same. But I think the criminal side of it will have clarity, good or bad. The civil side of it, we may not know anything. But that's when the window's going to open for the trade to be done, and there could be more teams at the table because teams could decide we got to get rid of this bum that we have playing quarterback for us.
To me, and again, I don't have any inside info here or anything like that, but just knowing a guy like Nick Caserio, who's, again, I worked for him a little in that New England front office and how they prepare, and they're already looking to the offseason a little bit and understand who's going to be free agents and the people that should be on their radar. I would think he's got a pretty good feel, and ultimately that's why I'm glad you kind of brought this up. I mean, let's go through it real quick. Let's look at the teams that we think could be in the quarterback conversation. I mean, it's a long list. Here's just ones right off the bat. Pittsburgh, I mean, I think they're going to be a player in the quarterback market. Denver, of course. Miami, the Saints, the Panthers, the Vikings, the Eagles, the Seahawks, depending on what happens to Russell Wilson, Washington, Detroit. I mean, we're talking double-digit teams there, and I think that's ultimately probably what Nick Caserio looks at too, to go, wait, this is a different offseason. You know, I don't know if there's a ton of guys on the radar for high first-round picks this year. You know, I haven't dug into that yet, but it doesn't seem like this is going to be like a year where we go, whoa, there's 5 first-rounders at quarterback. So you mark off those teams, their needs, kind of, you know, have a feel for what might happen in the draft. And I would think ultimately that was a big part of the decision, you know, something you've been on all along. That get to the offseason, yeah, it's risky, but I think we could get a little bidding war here and really drive up the price and really make a trade that can kind of remake their football team in a hurry.
But let's remember this: Deshaun Watson has the no trade clause, and I sensed at one point that they were trying to placate him from the perspective of, we're working on it, just bear with us. You know, we all at some point are interacting with someone in our lives in some capacity, whether it's someone who's going to do work at our house, whether it's somebody who, whatever it is, and we get that, just bear with me.
Yeah.
Just bear with me. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Just bear with me.
Right.
And at a certain point, you're like, you know what?
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Right.
I'm done bearing with you.
Yeah.
I know you're just trying to hold me off because you really don't want to deal with me. And you get to that point and you just snap. And he could say, no, I'm not accepting a trade to any team other than Dolphins. I still don't know why he wants to go to the Dolphins.
I don't know what the obsession is either.
I don't know. I don't understand it.
The obsession
They're 1-7.
Right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.